Welcome to the first official Grab the Coffee podcast because we're actually filming this in the morning
In the morning,
and we have actual coffee instead of it being like
water.
6 p.m. at
Yeah.
night and we're not drinking caffeine.
Now we've done some. Well, I don't know. I'm more willing to drink caffeine late at night, but then I regret it,
And then you don't sleep.
now
I don't mind like a Coke, but I'm not going to drink like a cup of coffee. One, it's just not the vibe. Like I'm not drinking a cup of coffee at 6 p.m. unless it's like a Frappuccino back in the day. But the last time I've had a Frappuccino was ages ago. Probably when I worked at Starbucks.
that was a long time ago. I Starbucks is like too sweet.
Yeah, now it's just like, ooh.
Just like I mean,
Oh, I should
even
tell you. So the drink I used to get when I worked at Starbucks, I think it was like a drink at the time, but it was a take on a coconut milk, like caramel frap thing with white chocolate, and it would also have caramel drizzle. And I think you would also put a little bit of hazelnut in it. So I'm talking like this thing was a sugar bomb. And I think if myself now tried to drink that same Frappuccino, I would hate it. But I loved it at the time.
that sounds like it
It
was like
also cost
1,000 calories.
it also costs a lot because you'd like add the coconut milk, you'd add the caramel drizzle, you'd add the whatever extra syrups or whatever. But
Coconut milk's pretty thick.
but in high school, I used to always get a I think a white chocolate frap with caramel drizzle. That was like the go-to, like, oh, we're going away for a volleyball game. We're going to our coffee shop. That was the order. And a sandwich.
Oh, I mean, I didn't really go to Starbucks that much.
No, that was our local coffee shop.
Oh,
We didn't really.
okay. Last week, like it was like 9:30, and I went and looked to see if there was any coffee left over in our pot. And this was like at night.
9:30 at night, you went and checked to see if there was leftover coffee.
Yeah, I was really tired, but I was working, and I wanted to stay
But
up
were you
late.
working like on your football stuff or like working for work?
Nah, I think I was like putting together a video, but I was like really tired.
You were wild.
We didn't have any coffee though, so I think I went to bed early.
Darn, that's quite unfortunate for you. Okay, so kind of something that has, I think, because we're in this phase of life in our 20s, just kind of figuring out like what we want our life to look like, what big decisions to make, what small decisions to make, all those good vibes. That something that I think has been a prevalent discussion in our relationship is that of one, like how our our relationship changes like from a weekday to a weekend, you know, because of our jobs and kind of the overall pressure we feel with our career path. And just like, oh, we need to kind of, we're letting it affect our overall mood a little too much, I guess. Like we're just not as lighthearted.
What, during the week?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so something, and I was listening to a podcast yesterday and it was talking about one, how your 20s are a great time in your life to explore many different things. It's kind of your era of exploration. Just kind of, you don't have a lot of additional responsibilities like children or, taking care of your parents or
A mortgage.
a mortgage. You're not as tied down.
Built up credit
So
card
you're
debt.
and yeah, like you can take a little extra risk.
Yeah.
And if you want to go backpacking in Europe, like your 20s is a great time to do that for multiple reasons. And I think it's interesting because like for Georgia for us, that was kind of in exploration period that we've learned a lot from. And so, also, kind of going back to the job thing, he also mentioned in the podcast how he divides his life up into decades. And then when you put like a moment, like let's say this project you're working on at work, that taking that and putting it into the scheme of this decade, so each decade is kind of like an era, that you shouldn't let that one thing just kind of overall affect the mood because it's so small in comparison to what your purpose for that 10-year period is. And so I think it's easy for us to get so caught up in the kind of, I guess, like laid out path, like the correct way to do something. And in reality, I don't think there's like one correct way. But with that, one of my questions to you was going to be, if you're going to be 26 in
October?
October. So you've kind of got 4 years left, and we've talked like 4 years for us to just kind of
4.5.
4.5, except not full half, because you're down a month.
It
so
pretty
5
much
months.
rounds, yeah.
But what is something you would do that kind of would give you like a new experience on life, or just kind of explore a different side of you, kind of like, that self exploration or whatever you want to call it.
So like, I think we've started to do this and we've talked about it before, but just kind of being able to like maybe even like revisit some like things we thought were cool or we did in the past, but either, like you get busy or then you don't have enough money to like maintain,
Yeah.
and just kind of explore different interests within like that space. Like I know this is just like completely random, but like I think it'd be really fun to roast coffee beans.
Hmm.
Just like something like that. And like
Would you want to open a coffee shop with this roasted coffee bean?
see, I think like for me it would be just more like hobbies, but then you can't have 50 different fun ideas and like maintain them all. You have to like narrow it down and pick,
But
unfortunately.
isn't that kind of what the 20s are? Is you get to, it's kind of where you are exploring all of the little things to see which ones actually kind of catch. You know?
Yeah. Well,
Isn't there a saying like you throw spaghetti something up against the wall? Spaghetti?
see what sticks.
See what sticks? I don't think it's
I
spaghetti.
guess so, but I guess all the stuff I want to do seems like it's like kind of expensive to start. So then it's a lot of spaghetti getting thrown at the wall.
Honestly, is the saying spaghetti?
No, it's definitely not.
I don't think so either.
But I don't know. That's like I don't know.
That is
That's
how you can tell if
that,
spaghetti's cooked though. So that's what pops into my mind. That's really funny.
you
Okay.
you know how like you'll like put the hair on the wall in the shower and
Yeah.
it'll just stick
That's
like
what
that falls off and then just throw it up against the wall.
Well, it gets all like twisted
Yeah,
in your
it's
hand.
clumpy and then it gets in the drain. And then the drain doesn't drain and then you have to
Okay, in this apartment, you've never had to clean out the drain, so I just do not want to hear it. And we've
um
been in here the longest, so really, I put that as a problem with whatever the drains were in
yeah,
our
I
other
mean,
apartments.
okay. But just to get back on topic, like a lot of people like their job like consumes their life
Hmm.
and they love to work. And then there's other people that they don't like their jobs, but they just purely have their job
For the check.
for the check to do things that they actually enjoy.
Uh huh.
So like, you know, it's just like some people's lives are so different in like what they enjoy throughout the day.
Hmm.
And then like, you can find happiness some people find like a ton of happiness on the weekend. Like the weekend people, they're like, yeah, oh yeah, it's Friday. They message in the team group chat like, "Happy Friday, everyone!"
We
Like,
survived a week.
yeah, about 1, 2 o'clock, they're like, "All right, have a happy Friday, everyone. I'm out this week," and then late coming in on Monday. But I don't know if that's like the best way to live. Like you
Because you
don't,
have 5 days that you're.
yeah, like I mean, I've talked to you about this before. Of like this year's like let's try and enjoy every day,
Hmm.
which can get kind of difficult because the day just goes by so fast.
Hmm.
But if you can maintain that like level of like energy
Yeah.
of having that like same happiness level all 7 days, like your fulfillment in life, and part of that is trying new things or figuring out what you like. So I think it's important to do now, and I mean you can just shape it as you get older or have like a better idea of like what you need, what you want.
Yeah. I think, and that's something I've always struggled with is like narrowing down the things that interest me. Because I think a lot of things are interesting. I'm like, oh, I should go explore this and this and this. But it is interesting, like, as you take a deeper look into something, if it actually fits you, you know? So, what do you think are some of the things, if you had to pick like a top 5 list of things in the next 4.5 years that you want to explore? Okay, minus the cost, just top 5 things you would be
Oh,
like, this is something I would start.
okay. So five's a lot. I'm gonna
Oh,
do three.
okay, fine, 3.
Uh, and then I obviously have to think about them. Uh, Definitely woodworking.
Okay.
Just because I watch YouTube videos on it all the time, and they always look cool.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I just have better taste in furniture than most people that sell furniture. Also, it's cheaper. I like the DIY. And then like I always had like fun doing like woodworking projects with my
Okay.
mom and dad.
Mm-hmm.
So, want to do that. Mainly like also working with like epoxy and stuff and like really nice wood.
Mm-hmm.
I think that looks really neat. And my sister started it last year. I don't think it went very well for her though in her one project. So maybe she'll hop back on the train. And then like I don't know. I mean, I always think dog agility would be cool.
Mm-hmm.
So if we had the space for that, just because I like the rings that they or the poles.
Mm-hmm. That they weave in and out of.
Yeah, like if we can get Holly to do that, that'd be pretty impressive. And then, gosh, you gave me three, and that's so difficult
Okay,
to
here,
do.
I'm gonna do. Can I ask a different question?
Yeah.
Two's good. But I want us to do, what are 2 to 3 things you think I would be interested in that you would encourage me to like look into in the next 6 years for me? But we'll just do 4.5.
So I think you getting into like some kind of more of like community group where you're forced to either like speak or like lead or put stuff together, like just kind of like on a weekend or whatever. I don't know what it would be like, maybe even just like a cycling group. So if you could, obviously, like, I don't know, there's not like crazy like cycling roads in like Atlanta, but if we were to move, then it's a little bit more open. So you joining a cycling group or getting your cycling instructor license, it's
Mm-hmm.
you've talked about before, but I think you'd enjoy. But even just going outside and doing it,
Yeah.
and then skiing. I don't know if that's you. I think I would enjoy it though. So if you enjoyed it, then we could go skiing. Um, but the snowboards look way cooler, and I've told you that. Whitewater rafting.
All outdoor things.
Yeah, pretty much. These are all things I want to do. So like, I hope that
Well, you know me so well.
um, but if you wanted to go and do hair and makeup, that'd be neat. I know at one point we talked about doing some like online e-commerce of some clothes that you wanted to put together.
No,
And
that one I thought about, and I don't want to do that.
now, what were the limitations for that?
Cost obviously is one of them, but the other one is like I don't know if in a grand scheme of things if I would like to design clothes. Like I think it'd be cool to put together like one collection, but having to release stuff like however much, that seems like
Yeah,
too much.
and there's
I just there are a lot of people that are super talented in that, and I would rather just like look at what they create instead of try to create my own.
yeah, and I know I probably didn't do a super great job of like answering your question, but like one of my fears is like they say like if you have this hobby and you like try and monetize it, then you just no longer enjoy it because it becomes a job.
Yeah,
So that's like something like I want to avoid.
just like let it be fun.
But then it's also really tough because you want to do like what you enjoy doing. So like for example, like you super big into fitness, personal training, and like you like working with people, so you become a personal trainer.
Yeah,
And then, you're working with all these people that probably aren't as motivated as you, or, sorry, in your terms, don't have the dedication,
discipline.
discipline. But then that can just be just kind of like soul sucking. Like you're trying so hard to get these people to maintain that discipline and they're not able to do it.
Hmm.
Or um, people that, well, now I'm not thinking of like a ton of examples, but like some people like to like casually write. And when they try and like monetize it, then it's just becomes this
It's a
cycle
to-do
of,
list thing,
yeah,
and you become back into the stress instead of just doing it to enjoy it.
yeah. So I feel like there's like a fine line there, but then very knife's edge.
Yeah. Here are the two I would suggest that I think you would love to do. I think one in the past, like since we've gotten together, you've really found like a love and passion for cooking, baking, you name it, like whatever. You've just enjoyed that. And then two is definitely creating something, whether it's woodworking or doing some sort of. But I think that you're always drawn to like my first thought is like engineering sort of vibes, you know? But I think that's something that does appeal to you.
Yeah.
And so that's something that I think you would enjoy getting into.
Yeah, I think that'd be fun.
So, but I do think it's interesting how we can, because like even when you were looking at jobs last year, I think it's easy to feel like you have to do,
What
what
you've
you have
done
experience
previously.
in. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't want to dump the experience you already have. And it's really difficult to make that switch because you're stepping into, I guess, I don't know, the business would be like a blue ocean.
Well, and you have to be new at something. And I just don't think we
Yeah.
like to like I have to be
And then there's that
the person that
expectation,
doesn't know
like,
anything.
if you're like older and you like step into a new role and you don't know everything or new stuff. And that's like another thing, like, even like companies will like shoehorn you into like, oh, this person's only worked in healthcare.
X,
Yeah.
yeah. So this,
And then it's like you'll have recruiters reach out to you and it's just like, oh, I see you have experience in healthcare. Or just for example, like I got a call from a recruiter, I think 2 years ago. We were in like Augusta for a job and fit all the job description stuff, like totally do this job. And she was like, "Have you worked in the restaurant industry before?" And I was like, "Well, no."
You
And
should
she's
have
like,
said, yeah,
"Yeah,
Papa
yeah, my
John's.
Papa John's experience." But she's, oh, yeah, they're really looking for someone with like restaurant experience.
Like, so you know the industry.
Yeah, well, it would have been working on a computer, like tracking their like sales.
You're
So
like, I can
there's no
understand.
restaurant industry
Yeah.
there.
And I think that's something you've talked about, like, because the jobs you've had in the past are in healthcare.
Yeah,
And
which
so,
that's the recruiters
but
to
you
reach
know,
out.
it's not like you're like in the know of all the things that happen in like the healthcare
Yeah,
industry, I
no,
don't
I
think.
have no idea. I look at financial numbers and
Yeah.
stuff. So, um,
Now, is there anything like not so hobby related that you would want to just go and do from like an experience standpoint? Where it's not like, because I think going on a trip in like your 50s and you have like a ton of money, let's say, would be very different than a trip you take in your 20s with a limited budget.
yeah,
Because you're not staying at like, you know,
the Ritz
this,
Carlton
yeah, you're
or the
not staying at the
Plaza.
nice hotel and have like all the things lined up for you. It's more like you doing something and planning it by yourself.
Yeah. And I think I saw something about that, like on my Instagram, where it's like the more risk you're willing to take, and like a foreign country or even
Yeah.
just here is like getting a Airbnb where you're staying with the family and they offer to like cook you a meal or something,
Yeah.
and like you get that experience like learning about them if they're from a different culture. But if you go to Africa and really go into their culture and not
Instead of
not
staying at the
not
like
just kid,
exclusive
yeah,
resort
stay in
and
your box. And it'd be the same thing with like Mexico or some South American um,
yeah.
countries. So just being able to like branch out, but I guess like I'm kind of jealous of those people that they'll like take that trip
Mhm.
overseas, or they'll do something, or something in their day like happens where they're just like, this is me, this is what I was meant to do in life.
Yeah.
Definitely never had that moment.
Do you think you would need to like step out of your quote unquote box a little more for that to happen?
Yeah, I guess so. That
So
would,
what would be a step you would take that kind of gets you out of that box?
I think just even like just going and like starting something new. Like we're on day 2 of our golf adventures.
Hmm.
So there's and
Well, I said non-hobby related,
I'm
just
like,
like an experience.
what if I become a professional golfer and
Okay, well, it started as a hobby, not just like a experience.
okay. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like just starting something new, you just have to go for that like first time, maybe a second time, and then start to feel comfortable. You meet one person, then you feel more comfortable getting involved. So it's easier to come back. And if you come back enough,
Here, I'll answer my own question.
okay. Well,
I would go climb Mount Kilimanjaro and then go to the safari.
just okay. It's a big
That's
Africa
something I
trip.
would do. Yeah. Um, or I also, like I've told you, which I've gotten bad about doing is practicing my Spanish, but going into like I really want to go to like Belize, and so going down there, but not just staying at like the all-inclusive resort, But getting like an Airbnb, like you said, where you're like immersed into the kind of culture down there, that's what I think I would do.
Okay. Which one would you choose first? Would you rather go to?
I mean, I feel like the Belize one's like more attainable. But I've told you for my 30th birthday, I do want to do like go to like Africa and climb Mount Kilimanjaro and go on some safari trips and that.
Okay. That'd be a lot of fun.
See a lion in the wild.
Yeah, that's kind of scary. But they do have some cool snakes in Africa.
I don't need to see the snakes, but I do want to see the animals.
Okay. You know, if you don't love your job, if you don't love your life, you can just start fresh, just make that change.
Yeah.
And so many people have that mindset of like, it's too hard or I can't do this kind of thing.
It's too like
Yeah.
I'm at least like surviving right now.
Yeah. And I now thinking about it, and obviously I don't think there's any way he would watch this, but there was this dude that I knew in school that he was getting his engineering degree.
Uh-huh.
And he was just like so fed up with it that I think after our freshman year, he dropped out, moved down to someplace south, and became like a oil roughneck.
Uh-huh.
Those like crazy people that are pulling oil out of the ground, and it looks like the most dangerous job. And they're just throwing heavy machinery around all the time. And but I mean, from what I know, I don't even think I've seen this person on like social media in a while. But like I think he loves it, and like he just wanted to like work with his hands. Like
Yeah.
the whole computer work just wasn't for him.
Yeah.
So
And I think this is also something like, although maybe your 20s has not as much responsibility tied to it, so I guess there's a little more flexibility and a little less risk in some areas that, people might recommend doing this in your 20s, but it's also something you can do throughout your entire life. Like, you're not chained. I mean, obviously, as you gain more experience in an area, like you've got 10, 15 years in an area, it's going to be harder to make just like a drastic change, but it is something that you can do. Like, I sent my dad the other day about people who start running at the age of 50 because I'm really trying to get my dad to go and run, to do a race with me.
yeah.
Yeah.
How far is the race? How long?
I think I'm going to shoot for a 10K with him.
Okay.
Like maybe doing the Boulder next year with him.
Okay, that's doable.
Yeah.
It's not a marathon, no ultra
I'm no
marathon.
longer pushing marathons on people. No, not doing that.
But I think even with that, like as you get older, it becomes easier to like leverage your experience and your money to do something like you want to do. You can mold it the way I would say like probably most like successful startup companies are probably obviously they can't be started by like 20-year-olds. You get the 20-year-old CEO that on his like Zoom meetings. But by people that are 30 or 40 or 50 and where they have that foundation to get off the ground. But even when you like reach like 50, 60, like I mean in theory your life opens up more.
Yeah.
So it's almost like you have those same opportunities that you did when you were 20.
Mm-hmm.
Just, you're obviously a little older, but I don't think that's like crazy old. And then, when you have something like that and you're busy, I think it keeps you younger instead of just retiring.
And just deciding your life is kind of over.
It's like, okay, I'm retired now.
Yeah.
Like you can constantly stay in that state of learning.
And have purpose too.
Yeah. And that could just be, watching grandkids.
Yeah.
For free. Childcare, that's very expensive.
Yeah. Or learn doing something completely like that you've wanted to try out for the past 30 years and just life was busy, And so jumping into that, or you want to change career paths and that door is now open. Like you've done the one career
Now
and
you can be
you've
done.
done well in it and now it's time to change. And you can. Yeah. Alrighty. Thank you all for joining us today.
We have to go to work.
Time to go do jobs.
Yeah.
Cheers. See you next week.